Alright, we finally got it. One Punch Man Season 2, Episode 1. So, I had a really good time with this chapter, so I might be the wrong person to ask about this because I'm kind of a stan for One Punch Man at this point, but I really didn't have any issues with it. The animation was fine, it was actually really good at some points, but I'll get into those later on, but I just want to say that this turned out pretty good. Now, there's been a lot of dissenters around this episode coming up to this, especially with the two trailers that we've got before this point, like the one released in December and the one that we got a couple weeks ago. People have just been looking for a reason to hate on this, but I hope that this episode has kind of changed their mind. I mean, I know some people are going to be really staunch and still hate on it regardless of how the quality was, but I honestly do think it was pretty good. So let's get into the review, and also all of you anime-only people who are watching, don't worry, I'm not going to spoil anything for what is going to happen in this season, but I will be making some comparisons to how it played out in the manga, but no spoilers at all, so let's get into it. So we're getting a few big reveals in this episode. I mean, they're pretty major to you guys who have only seen the anime because, I'm sure you didn't know what was going on with King, but we'll get into that. So we're actually seeing King in battle in this chapter. You might be thinking, well, he didn't fight at all. Well, that's because that's how King fights. So let me just, talk about the elephant in the room. King's reveal of him being actually weak. How you really want to look at it. So, yeah, King is revealed to not actually be the strongest man on Earth. And this is like a huge bombshell. I don't know about you guys, but when I first read this manga chapter 38, I was surprised as hell coming into this because I was super hyped on King. The hype that we got on him in Season 1. He's the strongest man on Earth. Everyone kind of is intimidated by him. Everyone looks up to him. But then we're finding out that it's all just a facade and that King is not actually the strongest man on Earth. And so let me go back into what his actual fighting style is, because we actually do see him fighting here. So King primarily is just blessed with like supernatural abilities of charisma and luck. And the charisma, of course, is coming from his luck, but his luck is so great that it could be considered meta luck. So essentially reality is like altering itself to favor the probability of things working out in King's favor. So this means like when the monsters observe him, as we saw in this chapter with like Tongue Stretcher, when he looks at King, he sees something much different than what the viewers do. Like he sees King as this overbearing, absolute symbol of power, like so frightening that he doesn't even want to engage in combat with him. He just straight up surrenders. It's almost like a genjutsu from Naruto. Like he's just seeing something that isn't actually there, because allegedly King's supernatural ability of meta luck is influencing the way that Tongue Stretcher observes him, as well as with everyone else, because we see this again in this in this episode, when we see Saitama looking in the window and we see that King figure that he has, that's on display, and we see it shows King as like this big, hulking, muscular person, and we know that King doesn't look like that at all. But this is just how the public perceives him, because his charisma is so damn powerful. Now, granted, this is kind of controversial because people don't really agree with this. People just think King is a gag character and that he's a weakling and that there's nothing really more to him than him just being into funny situations and him getting out of them through sheer luck. But I really don't think this is necessarily the case. So, of course, there is funny moments with King. He is a very funny character, as well as the situations that he gets into. But if we're going by one's writing, I think it's extremely plausible that King does in fact have the superpower of meta luck. This isn't uncommon to superheroes or just fictional characters in general. I mean, let's go back to Deadpool 2 that came out last year. One of the main characters in that movie was Domino, and her power or ability is just having luck. Like almost, I don't think she has meta luck, but she has really powerful luck. We just saw that essentially reality is altering itself so that it will favor her probability of her succeeding in things. And this is essentially what King has. I mean, he even explains it himself when he's talking to Saitama. He's like, yeah, just by chance, whenever I ran into a monster, some person would come out of nowhere and take care of it for me. And that happened 5 times in a row. So that's not a coincidence, guys. This is King's supernatural ability of meta luck. And we actually see the other side of his meta luck where he has people fight for him. And they don't even know that they're doing it. They just defend King unknowingly and they fight his battles for him. We just saw that it's happened throughout King's life with Saitama. And we just saw it recently with Genos taking on G4 for King. This is what King is about. He either can influence people to not fight him at all by intimidating them, or he'll have other people step in to fight his battles for him. So this is what King is about. So in a way, he actually is the strongest man on Earth because he's always essentially going to have Saitama to fight his battles for him. So if you're trying to take down King and you can get past his whole overbearing, overpowerful facade that he has that's coming from his charisma, you're going to have to face off against Saitama, and you're likely not going to win that since Saitama is the one above all, and to this point has proven that no one is even remotely close to him in power. Or you could just believe whatever you want. You could think King is a weakling. I mean, there's plenty of people out there that disregard everything I say about him, so it's really up to you to decide. But let's go into the other stuff that's happened in this episode. So the Genos versus G4 fight, this looks fantastic. I think it looks great, and I'm sure people are going to nitpick it and say it looks crappy because Genos has the CGI arms and whatnot, and G4 is large in part just CGI, but it looks great to me. I like this fight. It's definitely the highlight of this episode, other than just the expository reveals that we get, but I really enjoyed this fight, and I think it played out very well, and I think it was a great adaptation of what it is in the manga. Really enjoyed it, and from the live reaction stream that I had to this moments ago, it seems like other people in the chat were enjoying it too, so I hope that you guys enjoyed it as well. This is going to show that not everything is going to be crappy for this season. JC staff, while they're not on the level of Bones and Madhouse, they are still trying to put in that work. They're trying to do this series justice because they're not just trying to be lazy about it. They're working as hard as they can. But it's just that these animation studios are overworked and underpaid, essentially, too. So they're really doing all that they can. So you got to just kind of hang in there with them, guys. And there's also been many reports that the season, at least the quality for it, will progressively get better as time goes on. So you just kind of have to wait for it. But if this episode is any indication of that, I think we're in good hands here. I think it's going to keep getting better because, like I said, the G4 versus Genos fight was really good. So outside of that, we see Genos going to Dr. Kuseno after his fight with G4, and he shows Dr. Kuseno his parts and whatnot. So this is essentially Genos showing his motivations for Season 2. He wants to get into the top 10 of the S-Class because that's how he's going to prove himself to Saitama and also prove to himself that he isn't a weakling and that he is in fact getting stronger. And he is going to do that through the aid of Dr. Kuseno supplementing him with the parts from G4 to increase his overall power. It remains to be seen how powerful he is going to become from this, but we're likely going to see it in the next episode. Also, another thing in this scene is one of the animation setbacks. Now, I will acknowledge this. In this scene, it's very dark, and we just see one single light on Kuseno and Genos during this scene. This is likely just for the cutbacks of the animation because they essentially put all their eggs into the basket of the fight with G4 and Genos. So that's why we're just seeing the black darkness in that scene. It's just animation cutbacks. But if you're really curious as to what Kuseno's lab looks like, just check out the manga. You'll see it in chapter 39 or 40, one of those. You'll see exactly what it looks like. So it's not really that big of a deal, as that scene was just exposition to drop on us about the future of Genos and Kuseno in this season. And then other than that, we get the build-up for the next episode because we're being introduced to Fubuki, who is Tatsumaki's sister. She's also the B-class rank 1 hero, and she has her own little ragtag group with her known as the Fubuki group or the Blizzard Bunch, the Blizzard Gang, whatever you want to call them, whatever they're going to call it on Hulu. I forget what they even call it, but it's just a group of underlings from the Class B that are just kind of subservient to Fubuki just because she's powerful and she's very attractive and she has charisma as well, similar to King, but not on a supernatural level like him. So we find out that she's trying to go after Saitama because she found out that he had all of the highest records on the hero test, like he broke all of the records and whatnot. So she's trying to recruit him to come over to her Fubuki group, and we're likely going to get into that into the next episode. And then we're also seeing like a dichotomy here, because it's cutting over to Sonic, who's kind of talking about Saitama at the same time as Fubuki is, and then we see them both cross, like both of their faces cross over in one single frame. So we see that both of these people are obsessed with Saitama, more or less, and they're trying to go after him. So they might be running into each other in the next episode. At least that's what it seems like things are being set up here. So other than that, this episode is ending on Sitch revealing that he has like this initiative to get together all of the underground criminals and gangbangers, or whatever you want to, these thugs, whatever you want to call them, to get together as some kind of supplementary aid to defend against whatever Shibawa's prophecy is. So this was introduced in episode 10, or episode 9 or 10 of season 1, when we're finding out that the great seer, the great Esper, or whatever she is, the clairvoyance that she has, was able to predict that the world is in danger. And that it was so great that it like gave her a heart. Oh, no, she choked on something, and she choked to death after that. So she wasn't able to elaborate on what it means when the Earth is in danger, but it's going to happen within the next 6 months. So people might have thought like, oh, this is just talking about Boros, because Boros' ship shows up like almost directly after her prophecy is revealed. But it turns out that it's not it's not Boros, because why else would Sitch be talking about it in this season? Why else would they be setting it up now? So clearly this whole the Earth is in danger, the whole big prophecy is much more than Boros. And if anyone's really wondering what this means, this likely means that there is going to be a disaster level god threat showing itself. There has never been a disaster level god threat. There has only been dragons and whatnot. We've never been told about there even being a disaster level god threat ever existing. So this is essentially what it is, because that's what a disaster level god is. It's a threat to all of humanity, which essentially means the Earth is in danger. So Sitch is just trying to get together everyone he can to defend against this unknown threat. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the review. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I really did. I can't wait for the rest of this season. It's likely going to be 12 episodes. At least that's what I've heard. I mean, that is standard for anime series anyway. So yeah, I'm going to be reviewing every single episode, so please subscribe if you haven't already, and like the video if you liked it. I also have a Patreon. It gives you access to a Discord and a Q&A video that I do on this channel every week. And have a great day, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.